men should have a mission, but it was about business as a powerful force for good and for profit. There's no reason why we should have to choose between the two. But just looking at some of the differences between having a business that's purely for good, which might be a charity, which doesn't always give you anything back, but then also something that's purely for profit, which again doesn't necessarily feed or nourish what we really want in life. So a bit of housekeeping and an agenda. What we're going to do is we're going to drop in. We'll do a quick drop in, which is just where we just really center ourselves. We're very, very busy going from meeting to the gym to a workshop, and very rarely are we actually present in whatever we're doing at the moment. So we'll do a very quick one of those for a minute, just with some breathing, and just see what intention comes up that we'd like to get out of tonight. All insights are welcome. If I can just get you to pop your digital hands up. Though we've got a small sort of group tonight, so feel even more than welcome just to take yourself off mute and just chuck in if you've ever got any comments. In terms of like this space, if people don't fear judgment, they can be the complete and unfiltered version of themselves. And I think that can always be a good thing. So there's no such thing as perspectives that aren't valid, and sharing will often help someone else in the room, even if you don't feel like it might. It'd be great if you can have a paper and pen handy, because we will be doing a couple of exercises, and there might be topics that you've heard about, especially if you're in the personal development field, or that you might have done before if there's been a business consultant come into your place of work. But just if you can look at them with fresh eyes, fresh ears, and just see what there is there. We've all got access to whatever level of awareness that we have at the moment, but there's always deeper and deeper levels. In terms of the areas that we're going to cover, there is going to be what is a force for good, why being only for profit doesn't work, and what are your real values, the real ones rather than the ones that you're just paying lip service to, having a strong why and why that can be the missing piece. And then we'll do a wrap up and a drop out. Again, it'd be great to hear what people have to say on each of these topics around the room. So I'll give plenty of opportunities to share, or we might break up into some breakout rooms if we prefer some smaller groups. So before we go into this, if we can all just, for just a moment, I'm going to stop the share. And what we'll do is, if we can just, if you feel comfortable to just close your eyes, or even just bow your head a little bit. And again, this is just going to be dropping into the moment. The greatest gift that we have as men is our presence, because it just creates safety for everyone around us to really pour themselves into. So what we'll also do is some box breathing. Some box breathing as well, if any of you are familiar with that. So whenever you're ready, if you'd like to just close your eyes or bow your head. And box breathing is where you will take a breath all the way in for the count of 5. You'll hold it for 5. You'll breathe out for 5, and you'll hold that for 5. And it's really just to get you settled in this moment. So whenever you're ready, so breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll just do 2 more of those. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, last one, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just keeping your eyes closed just for a minute, and just really just see what kind of comes up for you. Often men, we really get stuck in our heads. See if there's anything that kind of comes up from your body and just kind of bubbles up to the surface. What we're looking for is just an intention. What's one thing that you would really like to get out of tonight? Just a single word, something simple. And just if you'd like to share that in the chat, if we're intentional about what we want to get out of things, we immediately increase our chances of actually being able to get that. So we want to just share in the chat. I'll bring the slides back up. support, Aaron. Thank you, mate. My support is equally my intention to support you as well. Okay. Participation is always good, guys. So you'll get from it whatever you give. So whatever your intention is, it'll be good. You've at least got it in your mind, so you'll be able to get whatever that is. My story, this isn't a promotional story whatsoever. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how good I am, but it's more just to really just kind of share my experience of being in a career which is purely just driven by money. It wasn't driven by purpose at that point in time. I had no idea what was important to me and why I would even want to work apart from paying my bills. So I was in corporate advertising, doing sales for the big metro newspaper in Sydney, Australia. And it was kind of a checkbox exercise. I was doing all the things that I should be doing that we all do to almost assure each other of success. It's driving the right car, wearing suits, socializing in the right circles, had the right job, did all of the things, but yet there was still something that was missing. It was kind of empty, it was meaningless, and it was advertising. So it was all quite fake and superficial as it already is. First couple of years were okay. All of that serves as enough of a distraction to kind of distract you from how unhappy you are. But then it got to 7 years down the track, and I was waking up every single morning, almost desperate, trying to find a reason that wouldn't get me fired, that I could message my boss to not come into the office. But you hear it when you talk to a lot of people, like they will describe their job as it pays the bills. And often it will be because they don't feel like they have any other choice. They're not qualified to do anything else. They aren't able to find anything else that they enjoy more. And it's that lack of another option that can really be soul destroying and really weigh people down over a certain amount of time. And they just even stop looking. It's almost like they accept their lot. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. And sometimes a breakdown is the best thing that can happen for you, because on the other side of a breakdown is a breakthrough. I pulled my version of a Jerry Maguire, although I didn't steal any company fish. And shortly after I left the country, did kind of a finding yourself type of a journey, but through traveling, through partying, all of that sort of stuff, actually ended up losing myself more. But the thing about your problems and your breakdowns, they will follow you wherever you go. So they always catch up with you. And it was that when I let it in and I accepted it, that I'm really unhappy. And that was finally the access that I needed, as well as my partner that made me go to one of these coaching weekends. That really was the missing piece for me, that actually helped me to find that what I went through really sucked. And I didn't want anyone to ever have to feel like the way that I did. And I didn't want them to have to go through any of the things that I did. And that was what was the beginnings of a really strong purpose that has me get up out of bed every single morning. And I've never felt such a purpose from anything else. Hey, David. Oh, hey, mate.
No, sorry. I wasn't watching the time. I'm sorry.
You're all right, mate. No worries. You're here now. That's all that matters.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on. And again, it is just finding that thing that really just has you with a passion for life again. So what is a force for good? Would anyone like to share what their understanding is of a business as a force for good?
It could be anything that could actually change the world for a better place, or the community for a better place, or the workplace for a better place. Yep. What you've got there behind you is the UN goals, development goals, yep, haven't you? So they are all things that make the world a better place, and your company could fit into those, or you can have something as grander or smaller. It doesn't really matter.
Absolutely, well spotted there too as well. Anyone else like to share or add on to what Darren's description?
Yeah, I was just thinking about education, like giving back and providing education for others, and people to give an insight into what they can do to better themselves.
Yep, amazing, absolutely. And I can relate with what you just said then, because that was kind of where I didn't want anyone to have to go through what I went through, and that was through educating them and coaching them to be able to have access to better things and different ways of thinking that would stop them from being in that kind of victim mode. Amazing. So yeah, it's everything that Darren said. It's everything that Matt said. For me, business as a force for good is it's a lot represented here in the Sustainable Development Goals from WHO, and it is different injustices. It could be something that's really important to you. It could be a cause that you believe in. It could be something that's happened to you or happened to a loved one. As I said, it could be injustice that you're fighting. It's something that when you talk about it, people feel it. And when you talk about it, you feel it as well. So it's something that really burns really passionately inside of you. This other question here, is profit bad? I mean, absolutely not. Profit is definitely not a bad thing, but profit, same as money, is potential. The more potential that we have, the more impact that we can create in our businesses and in our lives. But potential for the sake of potential, or money that just gets stored, stockpiled, or squandered, it doesn't really do anyone any good, apart from the person who's holding on to it. You might have, Matt, you might have some some things to say there. But in terms of the actual money itself, it is just pure, it's pure potential to create impact. And again, like, different people have different views, but I think the higher you value money, priority was never supposed to be a plural. If you trace back the Greek origins of the word, priority was only ever supposed to be singular. So it's as things have progressed into modern day, and as we get more distracted more and more, it's become plural. So really, we were only supposed to prioritize one thing. And if we make that one thing that we prioritize money, we deeper prioritize everyone else. So you could make an argument to say that the higher you value money, the less you value people, because you can only take up one space on the totem pole, the planet and the collective future. So again, this is where, if we really have a strong purpose and we value that over money, not to say that I'm against money or that you shouldn't go for money, because I believe that you can have both, but it's just really understanding what is the biggest priority for you. A guy I came across last week in a podcast, Alex Amosi, I thought he had just a really interesting concept around life itself. And it's like, in the casino of life, we're all given a token. So that's kind of like our life. We're given a token, and we amass wealth depending on our level of skill. But when our time is up and all of our chips get pushed back into the middle, and then you leave the table empty-handed, because it was a fake game with fake rules and none of it really mattered. So I thought that was really interesting. If you only build a business that's purely based on profit and nothing else, then you get to the end of your life and it is almost like it didn't matter. Sure, you might have some a wealth that you can pass on to your family, but again, like, big wealth that you pass on to people, it's huge potential. If those people aren't ready for that wealth, sometimes it can even destroy them. So again, it's just looking at, what else is more important than money that you can dedicate your life to. And also a life that you dedicated to advancing a cause you believe in, and changes the world for the better in some way, shape or form, rather than your life being about how much you've made. That's a life that's worth living, and a legacy that you've left behind. Okay, so I know that we have a mix of people in the room. Do you mind if you just in the chat, let me know in just one word, whether you are business owner, entrepreneur, employee, or freelancer, or something of that kind. Just one word that would kind of sum up what role you sit in. Freelance, self-employed, consultant, yep. Entrepreneur. Student, yep. How could I forget the students? Consultant, self-employed. Excellent. Good. So we've got a mix in the room, and employed and freelance, of course. So, I mean, when it comes to finding your passion, when it comes to finding your passion and purpose in what you do, it doesn't really matter what role you're in, because if you are employed or if you're even a student, you can roll into the office as though you are running your own business. And that's really the kind of that entrepreneurial spirit that we should have no matter what role we're in, because we really take ownership and responsibility for what we do every single day, rather than becoming a victim to something that a job that we've been stuck in for 10 years. So for me, this all really comes down to alignment. If we look at the very bottom, of the things, imagine this is you. So this is kind of like alignment. So this is all of your values, your beliefs, your aspirations, your dreams, your vision. This is you. If you stayed along this line for your entire life, you would have a very happy life, because everything that you do is within what you want out of life. And as we get a new job, or we get a new career, or we start a new business, everything starts here. It starts very close to being in alignment. But the longer we stray and the longer we follow someone else's vision, the longer we follow someone else's values and beliefs, if we're employed, or if our business gets taken in a different direction than what we would have first intended, And the longer that happens, the further we get from ourselves and the more out of alignment we become. And the first stage of being out of alignment is you have to start pretending to be someone else in order to deliver on whatever that role requires of you. So you become disempowered. You're no longer being authentic. You're marching to the beat of someone else's drum to fulfill the obligation or the whatever you've agreed, your agreement. Then you become defeated. How long can you keep on playing someone else's game or playing a different purpose other than your own, and then still not be getting what you want? And then after a while, you become deflated. You become resigned to the fact that this is just how life is, and I just have to accept it. And you become bored, if you haven't already, unfulfilled, uninspired, empty, meaningless, and all of those things. If you do them for long enough over this continuum, you're going to become desperate. And it's that desperation of, I need to get out of this job. Sometimes you don't even care what job or what business or what you're going into, because you're so keen to get away from that pain that you're experiencing.
I'm so there, Aaron. I'm so there.
Really?
I've got to get out of this place.
And I'm sure that I know how many people that you help with grants, so I'm sure that you definitely get quite a bit out of that as well. So the further you get out of alignment, the further out of touch you get with yourself, and the more distorted you will start to see the world. And this is what and again, like this might be a little bit of a polarizing subject, but if you think of someone like Vladimir Putin, he's so far outside of himself that the things that he's doing isn't in line with, the best version of himself, or for lack of a better way to put this, if you're in alignment, you love life. Everything about life is love. But the further and further you get away from yourself, the more your decisions are guided by fear, greed, being power hungry, all of these other things. So the further and further you get away from yourself, the further, the more potential you have to harm yourself and other people as well. And it even gets to the stage where, yeah, David?
Sorry, I was okay to just to jump in. I was working for a boss many years ago, probably 25 years ago, and he said, just try and be good at what you're good at. The guys that do this, that do whatever they do best, do it for themselves, not in a selfish way, but they have a plan and they know where they want to go. Sometimes they'll be an employee, sometimes they'll be a business owner, sometimes they'll be a musician, but they have a life plan. They know what's going to make them happy, and they're successful along the way, and money isn't necessarily the main driver for them, even though they may acquire it by accident.
Yes. And this is the thing. We do things because we're living up to other people's expectations, or we live up to some sort of societal expectation that we feel is on us, even if no one else is telling us that that's what we need to do. And in our attempt to please other people, we fail at pleasing other people, and we also fail at pleasing ourselves as well. So no one's happy. So the best thing that you can do is to, absolutely please yourself, and not in a selfish way, but you pleasing yourself. And don't make that dirty, but you getting what you want in life will give everyone around you permission to do exactly the same thing. What were you going to say, David?
I was going to say, can we just jump in and say things, or do we have to shut up for a while?
If you want, mate, yeah, absolutely.
No, okay.
I'm all for this to share.
I wanted to be a rock and roll star, and I've played guitar. You know this, Aaron. I started playing classical guitar when I was 10, and I wanted to be a musician. And I listened to other people. My mum thought getting a job is the right thing to do, and getting a job in an office is really good. So I thought I'll be an accountant, because it's a natural progression from rock and roll star to accountant. And it's really important to do really what you believe in when you're younger. I'm not unhappy these days. I do something else slightly different now, but you have to do things for yourself.
Absolutely. And some people will even say, don't follow your passion, because then it will lose its fire, or lose its interest. But it's again, there's no such thing as right or wrong. People might want to debate this into infinitum, but there's no such thing as right or wrong. There's the road that you choose, and there's how much you make of that road as well. And that's for me. Yeah.
Both of my children have followed what they want to do. They've moved away from what I thought they might do. I think the worst thing I'm sorry everyone if I'm talking too much, but the worst thing I thought when my children were growing up, and they're 19 and what they know, God, I can't remember it, 19 and 22, was if they came to me one day and said, Dad, I've got a great job in a bank. Apologies to bankers, it would have broken my heart.
But again, it's And being in banking is okay if that is really,
Yeah.
if there's something substantive in there, like, and we'll go through an exercise a little bit later that really kind
Yeah,
of anchors.
I was a banker actually.
Banking is fantastic, and I learned an awful lot of time for bankers, friends who are bankers, and I wish my children had followed that path. When I was
I wish
16,
they had.
no, when I was 16, I was offered a job as a salesperson in a paint factory, and that was about middle 1970s. And looking back, I wish I maybe had a go at that, because that's where I am now. I'm selling stuff.
But again, like, who said you have to choose?
Yeah.
You can have both. Yeah, Paul?
Yeah.
No, I always said that I didn't want to work in a bank when I was at school, and that's where I ended. Part of my career, I ended up. Actually, I always said it was the last place I wanted to work, but actually, I enjoyed the time that I had, and met some really lovely people. But it gets a bad name.
Yeah. Good. Okay, and so just quickly finishing off this slide. So when we get to this stage of being bored, unfulfilled, uninspired, empty, meaningless, like we're running around telling everyone how busy we are, and we're wearing it like a badge of honor. We're making ourselves sick of worrying about not having enough money to send the kids to private school, to go on fancy holidays, all of this sort of stuff. And we're running ourselves ragged, trying to be all things to all people. So it's really that kind of loss of what's important to me and what am I about that really has us. And it just starts with, it starts down here, and it's all about making tiny compromises that eventually end up into you living a life that is no longer in line with what's really important to you. And you feel it after a time. So in terms of the things that are really the thieves here, like we've all used these on occasion as well. So we don't have enough time, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough energy. But really, if we were really clear about what we wanted in life and what was important to us and why we wanted it, we have all the time that we need, we have all of the money, we have all of the energy that we need. And if you don't know what's important to you, there's no amount of any of these things, time, money, also cars, the new house to keep up with the Joneses. And even if you go into some of the more addictions that are more to distract us from our unhappiness, from not getting what we want, the booze, the drugs, sex, porn, all of that sort of stuff will also come into this, where you'll never get enough, because this black hole just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just insatiable. Now, some people might think, I know what my values are, I know what's important to me, and I know why it's important. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, we only have a certain level of awareness at any one point. So when we think we know exactly, like everyone might even have an example of this in their life, where they've thought maybe back in their 20s, they had it all figured out, they knew what was important to them, but now they look back at themselves now and they think, I had no idea. And so with all of this, I just be open-minded and curious as to what you might be able to add an extra level of depth. Or if you're not living any of these things, even though you kind of know, and if you're into self-development, we've heard a lot of this stuff before, but our ego will if it says, I know, it's not going to let anything in, or it's not going to let it drop even deeper. So just be open to some of these things. And for me, all men need a purpose in life. If our purpose is small, then we really get caught up in feeling empty and meaningless, like what we're doing doesn't really matter. And when we have a purpose, we really know it. And if we don't have one, that's when we do feel disempowered, defeated, and deflated. When we do have one, it's when we feel fierce, we feel fearless. It's like you feel like you're 10 years younger and fully charged, and you really feel full of life, and people around you will take note, and they will see that they will also think that you have this renewed energy about you. And for me, it also comes down to living by a code, which AKA is also known as having values. So values, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I don't know, this image of the tree just really spoke to me, because if you're really clear on your values, and if they are very deep, then you are unshakable. Nothing will be able to knock you over. So as an exercise, if everyone has a piece of pen, now this might sound a little bit morose at the beginning, but there is a reason I use this specific exercise. And again, if you want to just bow your head or close your eyes, whatever makes you feel more comfortable, And if you imagine that it's 2080, you've had a good life and you've passed on. And your great grandkids are going for a walk on a sunny summer day and they're coming to visit your gravesite. They all put a hand on your headstone and they reminisce their favorite stories about you, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, because none of us are perfect. Now, don't overthink this, don't overanalyze, just really, rather than it coming from your head, just see if anything bubbles up from your body. That might sound like a bit of a weird concept, but just focus on your breathing and just see what kind of rises to the top for you. What are the 3 things that they will remember most about you? It could be that you're courageous. It could be that you're funny. It could be that you're adventurous. The reason I use the grave analogy is that no one will have on their grave how rich they were, how famous they were, any of those sort of things. So this is going to bring up things that actually are important to you, that you want to be remembered for. And again, try not to overthink it, because the more we filter these things, if we think of something and then, oh, no, I don't want to say that because they might think this, that's when we're filtering ourselves and it's really not being the authentic as we can be. And when you finish, it'd be good to put them in, those 3 value words, in the chat, so we all get a bit of a feel for what other men value.
So just say it.
If you want, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think mine would think, yeah, the good, bad, and sometimes those things are difficult. I think that they would think, shame mum and dad split up. Dad loved music, and he supported us.
Yep. So music supported us. It's a shame. So, okay. Yep.
Aaron, sorry, are these things that you think that our relatives would think of us, or what we would want them to think of us?
What? So again, like, this is where we can project what we want other people to think, but it's more about, you know, what you really are. So if you're sharing these things, it's what do you feel like, you're putting yourself in their position, but that's really giving you a deeper insight into yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, see yourself how you want to be seen from other eyes, but you're not it's not adding to a mask that you're wanting people to see, or how you want them to perceive you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sure. Did you want to share yours?
Well, the 2 I think and would hope would be hardworking and funny. I'd hope those 2 would be traits that I'd be remembered for. Yeah, not sure about the other one. Quite often sacrifice time with friends or family to continue focusing on work, and which is often seen as a bad thing with relatives and things like that. So maybe that's something that would be remembered for.
And again, some of these are good, some of these are bad. None of these are good or bad, but we get to look at them and we get to choose whether or not that's how we want to be remembered. And if we know now, we can start making any changes that we might want to change. That might work into your value of hard work, and you want, you know, your family to know that you worked hard to provide for them. And it's like, we can get all caught up in, because there's a lot of kids that grow up and their parents work really hard to provide for them, but the kid might say, all I really wanted was for you to spend time with me. And as a kid, like, you haven't really got the rationale that you would as an adult. And as kids, we grow up and it's all of our responsibility to kind of reparent ourselves and give ourselves the things that we needed as kids. But again, like, it's all perception. And again, none of it is wrong or bad. Good. So generous and helpful. Jonathan's was lunatic, shitty jokes, contrarian by nature. I could not have put it better myself, mate. Generous, helpful, disciplined from the sim. Present, loving, driven from Darren. And Svet, inspiring and funny. I would second that absolutely, mate. Good. So there's a second part to this, because a lot of us have done that exercise before. Now, the other thing that I would say here as a test is, and it might work with some of these, it might not work with others, but just try it on. Now, Dr. John Martini says that we really live our values by what we invest our time and what we invest our money in. So we're going to use money for this example. If you were to take those values that you just mentioned just then, and you were to look back through your past 3 months worth of bank statements, would they reflect that you've been actually living these values on a daily basis over the past 3 months? And the reason I ask this question is because we've all seen the example of the big, expensive business consultants that roll into corporates, and they do this values exercise, and a bank might have trust, transparency, and loyalty up on the wall behind their reception. But then the next week you'll read a paper and it'll have something about the CEO being mixed up in some sort of embezzling scandal. So it's so important that we actually live these things rather than living up to an expectation that we think that people have about us. And as men, like there's lots of things, like men don't cry, men aren't angry, men are strong, men can't show weakness, all of this stuff. And it's about really breaking those expectations and those things that we feel obligated to live up to, which is again just taking us further and further out of an alignment and away from ourselves. And a lot of this might seem like it's kind of the personal stuff. This all does tie into the business stuff. I would challenge the thinking there because, again, like I mentioned, sometimes we can be persuaded to, okay, what do my customers want me to value? Your business is an extension of you. So I would say start with your values and try and build them into your business because they're the ones that you can live up to on the work. Like if you're feeling bad and on your worst day of the year, the stuff that's not you, you will struggle to live up to that all the time in terms of being consistency. Does anyone want to share in terms of how they've invested in their values if they were to have a look at their bank account over the past 3 months? Does that test tell them anything about whether they're paying a lip service to something or whether they're actually genuinely living up to this code on a daily basis?
I think it depends on the values. It's like mine being about being present and loving.
Yep.
It is very hard to put a financial figure on them.
Yep.
It's very hard to say that's where I spent that money. But then, if I look at my statements, there's cinema tickets, there's meals out, there's things like that where I spent with my family.
Yep.
And that's how you would then value that time that I put on it.
Completely.
And also things like being driven, that counteracts it. It's almost in battle with each other because to be present, you can't be driven and going off and doing business all the time. But because of my lifestyle, I can do that because I spend lots of hours doing stuff at night and stuff like that, where it's not always possible. So the driven shows as well. Yeah.
Do you mean present with the family or present doing whatever you're doing?
It could be both. So present with the family and present in the time when I need to spend doing business.
Yep.
So whether I'm in business mode or in family mode, I switch between the two. Yep.
Good. And they're really good examples. That's probably more reflected in how you invest your time. And as you said, like a lot of the family outings was where you'd see that reflected in your bank statement as well. I use the bank statement one because that's something where people instantly know whether or not they're doing themselves a disservice and just trying to live up to an expectation out of themselves because their bill's in black and white. They can't argue with it. If they're saying growth, let's say growth, for example, and they haven't bought a book, haven't done a course, haven't done anything in the past 3 months, then there's something not quite congruent there.
Yeah.
Good. Would anyone else like to share on their values?
And with mine, the only thing I can think of that's probably relevant is supporting the family. That's always in my mind. I don't want any bits of the family to think that I'm not supporting them.
Yep.
One way or the other. It's not always financial.
Yep, absolutely. Because that's another stigma that men live up to, and I think nobly live up to as well. But that's not all the only value that we have to offer. Amazing. Thank you, mate. So we'll move on to the next one. I'm just mindful of time. One more exercise that I wanted to go through as well, and then we'll have another share. This one. And the other point that I just wanted to make on values very quickly was if you have a code or if you have values that you're living up to, If they are values that you're just paying lip service to, that is very disempowering, because again, you are putting more faith in opinion that other people have for you to live up to. So it's very disempowering. But if it's your own and you are living it up to it every day, you are keeping that promise to yourself every day. So you really learn to trust yourself. It becomes this inner source of power that you've got, because you know what to do in every single situation, because you're just living to some things that you really believe in on a daily basis, and you're much less likely to make those little compromises that end up becoming big compromises over time. So this one is, for me, was really the missing piece. So motivation is fickle, which I'm sure many of you may have heard, but a strong connection to your why, especially if you've read Simon Sinek Start With Why, will have you leaping out of bed every day. And so this is going back to the cause, as a force for good. So finding your purpose or a cause that is greater than yourself will give you access to courage, energy, and the ability to connect with people on a deeper level than most, even family members, will be able to connect with each other. And it's because you have a significant shared experience. I mean, when it comes to really connecting to your why, it is all about, you know, you felt something, you really understand something, you really gotten into someone's shoes, and that's where you can really connect with them. And when it comes to fighting for something that's or working towards something that is greater than yourself, you can overcome fear, because it's not about you, it's about something greater than you. So this is all about why and your purpose. Again, if you've got your pen and paper handy, the exercise here is called the 7 whys. And this is about, we live very surface level lives. We have surface level conversations, talking about the weather and how people are. And you often will find that people's response is good, thank you, not bad, thank you, tell me about it. And they're almost automatic responses. You will ask the question and the person hasn't even had a chance to think. They've already, before you've even finished, they're almost even answering your question. So they haven't really gone in deep to check with themselves, is this actually true? Now, with this exercise, I would say to use what you are passionate about. Don't use whatever you're doing, whether it's a career, business, anything that's just to pay the bills and has that kind of feeling for it. Because if we optimize for crap, we'll get more crap. So really use something that you're really passionate about here. And that will really help you get deeper and deeper on that. And it's really about connecting with why this is really personally important to you. And it is as simple as asking yourself these questions. So say, for example, why is it important to have a successful, it might be financial planning business, bless you. It might be all sorts of different things. So just pick whatever like your passion business is here, or your passion career, or your passion anything that would fill this line here. And we're just going to take it 7 levels deep, because as you guys might know, we're all onions. We've all got many, many layers, and we're trying to find something that makes it really important to you. So I'm going to share what mine was, just to give you a bit of sort of an idea of exactly how this goes, because this is a really, really powerful exercise if you do it properly. And even sometimes let yourself get a little bit emotional about it as well, because the more emotion that you can attach to this, the more it's going to excite you and give you that sense of purpose. So for me, my question was, why is it important to be a successful men's coach? My answer to that is that I see a lot of men with huge potential, but they're holding themselves back. Why is it important for me? And what you do is, so rather than just asking why, you take the most powerful piece of the previous answer and you just attach why to it. So here, the most powerful piece of this was about not wasting potential. So that starts my next question. Why is it important for men not to waste their potential? The answer to that was because we all have a purpose and we're here to give our unique gifts and talents to the world. So the most powerful part of this was we all have a purpose in life. So why is it important to have a purpose in life? Because a life without purpose feels empty, meaningless, and sad. Why is it important not to feel empty, meaningless, and sad? Because you can get stuck feeling empty, meaningless, and sad, and that eventuates in you becoming a victim. Why is it important not to feel empty, meaningless, and sad and stay stuck as a victim? Because I did that, and this is where it kind of got personal for me. I really felt why this was important to me. It was because I did this for the first 30 years of my life. Didn't want anyone to have to feel like that ever again and not feel like they have nothing of value to offer the world. And why is it important for men to know that they have everything to offer the world? It's because when we know we have a lot to offer, we show up differently. We show up differently in the conversations that we have with our friends, with our partners, as fathers, bosses, employees, humans in general. And if everyone showed up like they knew they had something to offer, the world would instantly change like that. And you go from being about someone who is purely just motivated by profit or greed or power, which is they're all motivations that come from a wound that you have inside, and it's not feeling enough. So you're looking to feel. You might have felt powerless when you were young. Maybe you got bullied in school, and suddenly to try and feel powerful, you need power over other people. But it's because you're trying to prove to yourself that I am powerful, but you wouldn't need to prove it unless you felt it yourself. And we can give all of these things to ourselves. We don't need anything from the external world. We can give all of these things to ourselves, but it starts with understanding why and what motivates us. And again, this is something that you don't want to overthink too much. You want to just kind of take the first things that just come up for you, because again, we don't want to overanalyze it. We don't want to make it too contrived, because the more contrived we make it, the less real it becomes. Just raw as it comes up. And just starting with that, why is it important to have your passion business? And then just taking it deeper and deeper and deeper. I don't know if is anyone game to do do this live with me?
Sure.
I'm happy to if someone is.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Hello, Max. Sorry, man, I didn't see you there.
Hi, Aaron. I'm sorry I'm
Thanks.
late. I only arrived in 5 minutes, but I'm hoping there's a recording.
Yes, yeah, there is, mate. There is. Mate, you're here. That's all that matters. So, what kind of business? What is this blank for you?
Why is it important to have a successful? You want to know my business?
Or just the passionate business, the thing that really gets you going.
Yeah. So
It's coaching.
what I'm in now, which is coaching.
Yep, good. So with this, what we're looking at is we're going to take it 7 layers deep. So what we need is we just need the most powerful part of each answer.
Yeah.
So I might just stop you before we go off into a story, because we'll just be looking at getting the punchiest bit.
Yeah.
So why is it important for you to have a successful coaching business?
To feel satisfied and to provide for my family.
Amazing. Why is it important to feel satisfied and to provide for your family?
Because if I'm not feeling satisfied, I'm in a bad place.
Yep.
And but to provide for my family, because I can't imagine I don't want to even imagine not providing, Yep.
So what's important about not being in a bad place? Why is it important to not be in a bad place?
For me, probably because I've become self-destructive.
Yeah. Did you want to keep going with this, or do you want to go to the providing for the family?
Why is it not good to be? Well, because I have been in that position, and the levels of shame and guilt and low self-esteem were excruciating.
Yep. And why is it important that that work that you do means that you don't have to feel that?
Why is it important that work I do means I don't? Well, it's a relief from that dark place, which I don't know if I could survive again.
Yeah. Cool. So and again, like it takes you down, and for some guys it will get a bit emotional. It will kind of tug at the heartstrings a bit.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Like, it's anchored into something that's real, that's powerful, and it's not about moving away from pain. There's also the flip side of that, which is also want to provide for the family. I know what it's like to be in a bad place. So I want, and I've also experienced what it feels like to be in a good place as well. So you get both motivations in there.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you playing with me there.
Thanks.
Does anyone want to share what there was, like how far they got? You might not get to 7 levels in this, but I just wanted to give you some kind of framework that would allow you to just fill in some of the blanks now, and then maybe later you go and add more to it. But does anyone have anything that they uncovered that they weren't aware of before, that was deeper, that's a personal experience? And again, this is a safe place. It's no judgment here. Anyone is welcome to share.
I think I had trouble getting past 4.
That's so. What was the fourth one? If you're open sharing?
Maybe I went wrong, but what I started off is it's not about my business necessarily, but why is it important to successfully engage with others? Is the first question.
Yep.
So do I answer my first question then, and then do you want to play?
Yeah. Or you can tell me. I'm just mindful of time. Do you want to do you want to just give me the answers and then we'll.
Okay. Because it's the opportunity wasted by not doing so. So why is it important to discourage wasted opportunity? Because opportunity can lead to something that I didn't get to.
Yep. So opportunity can lead to. So what's the personal experience there? Because it's still kind of like the opportunity outside of yourself.
Yeah,
when was the time? Why is it important for you to make the most of opportunities? Like, and again, maybe this isn't something you want to share. I'll just put this out there, but just ask the question to help you dig a bit there. It's like, when was the time that you missed out on an opportunity that really kind of hurt? And you were just like, oh man, that really sucked.
There probably was one, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, and that happens sometimes as well, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of.
There are too many.
Yeah. Well, there's always this. So there's if it is something that's a bit heavy, there's usually something that happened when we were younger, and then there's all of the other events that happen after that kind of remind us, and it all just gets compounded into the one thing, and this can be where it affects us.
I'm kind of happy when I'm doing things with other people that makes them happy.
Yeah. That makes you happy.
Yeah.
Good. And again, like it's interesting to play with this because you can take it deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's no going too deep with this because again, as I said, like we've all got a certain amount of awareness at any point in time, and we can always take that a bit deeper. And the deeper we take it, the stronger it gets, the more clear we get on what's important to us and why we're here. And it's like, I mean, they may not be your favorite people, but Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they know exactly what they want in the world. And it's like they are so driven by that because they're so strongly connected to what's important to them and what they're trying to achieve. And that's available to all of us. Good. I'll just move on, just aware of time. I want to make sure that everyone gets out of here at 7:30 on the dot. And so to bring this all back together in how these personal values, these personal whys lead back into your business is that any business or any business owner, any freelancer, any employee, anyone that has a really strong understanding of what their values are, what is most important to them, and why it's important to them, will have absolutely no problems attracting customers. And this is obviously from a customer acquisition point of view. They will attract customers that believe in what they do. They are loyal. They will refer people that are just like them, so they'll bring even more business. They'll appreciate you more than the mediocre people that you might deal with that just kind of take it or leave it, and they're just with you purely for transactional reasons. And because of that, they are happy to pay more than what other people will as well. And that's, if you want to do half the work but still get the same sort of result from your customer base, this is an excellent way to do it because you will find that the conversations, the conversions, everything will be much easier when you're dealing with these people. From an employee point of view, being stronger in your values or freelancing or consulting, being strong in your values and understanding why, again, that just helps you show up with that entrepreneurial mindset and you are taking responsibility for how you spend your days rather than kind of outsourcing that responsibility to your manager or anyone else on the team or whatever. So it's really just showing up with intention every single day and making sure that you are giving everything that you've got because you're constantly finding your edge. You're not just getting comfortable and complacent and kind of settling into security. You want to keep on pushing yourself and getting better. And that is when you have a business, a career that is for good and for profit.